Hey guys, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to use the periodic table basics sheet that we did the lesson before, and we're going to learn about the Bohr diagram and the Lewis dot structure. So we're going to go ahead and right now we're going to learn about the Bohr diagram. So if we go right here to this sheet that you've done, or you should have completed all of the top parts for each of the So you should have completed the top part for each of the cards before you start this. All right. So today what we're going to do is we're going to learn about the Bohr diagram. That's this middle part for each of the cards. And for the Bohr diagram, a Bohr diagram is just a model to show the electrons and how they orbit the nucleus. The nucleus is in the center. Now, if you remember, the electrons do not move in a perfect orbit. They're actually very scattered and they actually create this electron cloud. But this is just a model to show all of the electrons in a certain element. So we're going to, there's some important pieces of information because each orbit, which is also called a shell, can only hold so many electrons. So think of it as a cup. Your cup can only hold so much. Once you overfill the cup, it spills over, and then you need something bigger to hold all of it. So you're going to work from the inside out, all right? And the innermost shell holds 2 electrons. And you always start there. So the innermost shell is always going to hold 2. Now, if you happen to have more than 2 electrons, you've got to go to the second shell or the second orbit. And then this holds 8. I'm going to smoosh that in there. There you go. And then this last one, we don't have to worry about that one for 8th grade, but all you need to know is that if you have more than 10 electrons in an element, it's going to spill over into the third shell. All right, so we're going to look at our examples from what we had before, and we're going to go to nitrogen. So for nitrogen, I'm going to kind of zoom in a lot so that way you can see what I'm drawing. For nitrogen, we're only looking at the electrons for the Bohr diagram. So you're only looking at electrons. So you have 7 electrons for nitrogen. So what you're going to do is you're going to start on the inner shell and you're going to draw 2 electrons. Now, right now for 8th grade, we're not going to concern you where you have to exactly place each electron on the inner shell. Just know that you need to have 2, and I like to space them out. So I have 1 electron here, and then I have another electron here. Now, if you've noticed, we've used 2, but we still have 5 electrons left, but our inner shell is full. So remember, that only holds 2 electrons. So once your inner shell is full, then the remainder have to go to the next shell out. So in this case, we have 7 minus 2, so now we have 5 left. So we need to put 5 electrons on the second shell. And again, it doesn't matter right now, just make sure you can actually see all 5. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I were to count all of this together, I should have 7 total electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 total electrons, so I'm good. And I'll just erase that here. All right. So then let's go to aluminum. Aluminum, and remember, we're just looking at electrons for the Bohr diagram, and we want total number. So Bohr are your total electron. All right, so Bohr models are your total electrons. So we're using all the electrons in this one. All right, so now let's look at aluminum. Aluminum has 13 electrons. So remember, we're going to start in the first shell, which only holds 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2. Well, now I've got 11 more left. So, and then the second one So I'm at 11. So we started with 13. We used 2, so now we're at 11. So now we're going to put 11. But remember, this second shell only holds 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now that I've used 8, I now have used a total of 10 electrons. So if you count, you've got 8, 9, 10 electrons total. So we still need to go, the other is going to be left over, which is 3, and those are going to go to the outermost shell. And again, just put it so I can see it. I'm not going to be a super stickler on where it should be, but the main thing is you should have a total of 13 electrons shown on this model. So again, count it. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I have 13 total electrons. And so this Bohr diagram matches the total number of electrons here. All right. Now let's try fluorine. Fluorine has 9 electrons total. So we start with 9. Well, remember, only 2 fit in the first shell. So we now have 7 left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, okay. Well, didn't we say the second shell holds 8? So we actually have 1 extra space. So everything fits into this shell, so we don't need to make a bigger shell. So now that we've used all 7, we should have a total of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 total electrons on our Bohr diagram, which matches our total electrons in fluorine. All right. So what you're going to do for the other cards is you're going to, if you have not completed this part already, you should have done that before you got in here. You're going to do that. But you're going to go through and you're going to complete the Bohr diagram for each of the other cards. All right. And then once you're done with that, make sure you check and then go on to the next part, which will be the Lewis structure.